Okay, good morning. We're going to continue. Light's good. We're going to continue with Yoreh Deah Kuf Bet at the very end, in the middle of the Ramah in Seif Daled. Okay, towards the very end, where it's a Yud Bet of the Taz. So he writes, this is the Ramah. Mi shenadar midavar echad. A person makes a neder not to eat something. V'nitar, so it becomes asr because of a neder. V'nitarev, and it becomes mixed in. Achar kach, so then and afterwards it becomes mixed in. If it was before, then it's not shayach. It's not an issue. It was heter. So now it's ledidei mikre davar sheishol matirin. So something that's made up of a neder, it could be for a day, it could be for a lifetime. It always has the din of a davar sheishol matirin. Why? The ha'efshar lishol al nidro. Even if it be for a lifetime, it's always has a davar sheishol matirin. You can always go to the Rav, Beis Din, and undo your neder. Okay, so there's a way to be matir. Okay, fine. Davar sheyesh lo heter. Okay, so now something was mutter. Davar sheyesh lo, something that will become mutter, or can become. V'chozer, and then v'nesar, and then it's going to become aser again. Kegon chametz bePesach. So such as chametz, what used to be mutter, then it became aser, and something like this. Lo mikri davar sheyesh lo matirin. It is not called something that has yesh lo matirin. Wait a second. How did I read that? Sounded weird. Sorry. Davar sheyesh lo heter v'chozer v'ne'esar. Kegon chametz bePesach. Lo mikri davar sheyesh lo matirin. Yeah, so one reason is it's always going to become aser, and it has to be something that's going to become mutter forever. And then that's called davar sheishol matirin. Something that in a year from now is always going to return to its iser is aser. Also, another reason why it's mutter, and it's not called davar sheishol matirin, is because we know chametz she'avar alav Pesach is actually aser. So therefore, it's always going to stay aser. So that's why it's not a davar sheyesh lo matirin. Two reasons. V'yesh chokin bazeh, and some say, wait, we disagree. Why? Because the halacha is it can be mutter b'ta'arovet. If it gets mixed in, there's a way for it to the halacha. We're not going to review exactly, but basically the halacha is v'chametz she'avar alav Pesach. Anytime it's a mixture. It's an item that has some chametz in there. They weren't gozer on such a thing, and so therefore it will become mutter. So anyway, so that's the reason for the yesh chokim. But generally, the Pri Megadim and others point out the general rule, and this is generally the halacha, Rav Poskim, that generally when even the Ramah has the same concept, it's not as ironclad like the Shulchan Aruch where we say stam v'yeshomrim. It does apply to the Ramah, but there's a lot more exceptions within the Ramah for that principle of stam v'yeshomrim, halacha kistam versus the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, it depends on other achronim, depends on what he writes in the Paras Chatas or the Darkei Moshe. But anyways, that's the general rule. So, v'lo mikre davar sheyesh lo matirin, ela im kein hutar l'mi shene'asar. Now, in order for something to become davar sheishol matirin, it means after a particular amount of time, it becomes mutter. Right? That's exactly what it means. But it has to be mutter for everybody. Let's keep reading. Let's say the thing is going to become mutter for everybody. But for one person, it's going to remain aser forever. So then we still say that's not called davar sheishol matirin, because for that person it's never going to become mutter. Kagon, we'll understand better with the example. Kagon hamavashel b'Shabbos. A person cooks on Shabbos, right? We know it's aser. Lo mikre davar sheishol matirin. It's not called davar sheishol matirin. Person does it. So the Shach has the words from the Shulchan Aruch. If you do it b'mezid, So then it's asr lo la'olam. It's always going to be asr for you, but la'acherim, and it wasn't done for them, mutter motzei Shabbos. Immediately after Shabbos, right? It's not even b'chadei shi'asu, it's a Jew. So it's mutter right after Shabbos. So that's not called a davar sheishol matirin. It is for everybody else, but for you, it's asr forever, for the one who did it b'mezi. And since it's asr for one person forever, that's asr forever, and it's not called davar sheishol matirin. So that mixture could be mutter if it's batal b'shishim or whatever the halachas of bittul are. Okay, that takes us to siman kuf gimel. Din notein ta'am lifgam. Okay, let's go to aleph. Kol davar shetam pagum. Anytime the flavor that it's going to impart with the mixture is it's pagum, as a bad flavor. It's less desirable. Now it has a less desirable flavor. Eino oser ta'arovoto. It doesn't make the ta'arovet aser. Okay? It's okay. Vafilu ein ta'amo pagum machmat atzmo shebifnei atzmo hu mutam mashubach. Even if the extra ingredient, I don't know, this extra piece of chazer or treif meat, by itself it might be delicious. But for the item that you're eating, it ruins the flavor. I don't know, let's say you want to have whatever your example might be, let's just say, I don't know, a milkshake. For whatever reason, I don't know, probably a bad example, but whatever, you're having a milkshake, and you have this chazer piece of meat come in there, but for you, it ruins the flavor of your milkshake or your smoothie, whatever you're having. That piece of pig meat or whatever meat, it ruins the flavor for you. So then you don't have the normal klalim, even if it's not an issue of batal b'shishim. It's not going to be a problem. Only if it ruins the flavor or lowers the level of the flavor. Even if the meat itself was good, it doesn't make a problem.
We're talking about the tom. What about
the tom? Obviously, so let's say the piece of, we said, chazer meat or treif falls into your smoothie. You think that it ruins the flavor of your smoothie, or it just doesn't ruin it, but it tastes worse now. All you have to do, even if it cooked in there, you take out that piece of treif, and everything else is 100% glak kosher. If you blend it in, so then the same thing. If it's not nicker and you can't filter it out, then there's nothing you can do about it. Now it's all glak kosher. You don't need shishim. Well, let's keep reading. But the whole point is no. It's not pogem b'ta'amo. That's the whole point. It's not much. It doesn't affect it. It doesn't osir the tarovet. Elisha pogem ta'aruvoto. It makes it worse. Then it becomes mutter. The ta'arovet is not a problem. Okay. Now, is it here? Let's keep reading. Yeah, let's keep reading. We'll say it afterwards. Haga, mihu, dvarim hachashuvim kibriya o kayotzei ba. But however, there's a caveat. Even though even though it is pogim and it wouldn't be a problem, but there are some exceptions to the rule. We don't lose the isser or the chumrah of birya. It's still a problem. Chaticha or ischabed. All those things, davar shebeminyan. So those things, even though it's pogim, those criteria are still aser because they still are whatever shalem of a chaticha chaved or a birya, whatever those rules are, those are still aser bin derabanan. Okay, unless those items themselves are like getting rotten, and those items themselves are not really edible anymore. So then that's not even a problem. Okay,
so rancid piece of pork that falls into the food, you don't need shishim.
Correct. You don't need shishim, but you take it out. But if you can see it, you have to take it out. Anything that's mushus, you always have to take out. Right, so that's what we just said. Those items by themselves, you have to, as long as they're there, you have to remove them, unless they themselves are rancid. Okay, but you still have to remove them because you can't eat them and you can see them.
Is that not something new? Yeah.
I think so. So
Didn't we learn this back? Any girl is happy with lava?
yeah, but now we're just want you to realize that don't think a tam gam overrides that rule. Just remember, you have to have your criteria, your which uh, whatever your order of priorities. Okay, base. Pegam zeh ein sarich sheyifkom legamrei. This we already said. That in order for it to be a pegam, it doesn't have to be a horrible, wicked, foul flavor. Ad shehe kates lechol, that it's so bad, it nauseates you, you can't eat it. El afilu poging ktsat, just a tiny bit. You just lower the level of the flavor. Eino oser ta'aruvoto, then it doesn't affect, and it's not a problem. The Shach points out, but however, if it's not lishvach but not lifkam, it's neutral. It doesn't really affect it either way, so then it's aser. If you have a ta'arovit, it's 100% aser unless you have all the same klalim, generally batal b'shisha. And his proof is we know by Gida Nasha. We know by Gida Nasha it's Oser. Even though we hold Ema Gida Notin Tam, and it still has to, the halacha, it still must be B'shishim. Because it has a neutral, it's like Eitz Ba'alma. So those are the, so that's when it still needs to be. Okay. Okay. Here, interesting, I'll just point out, Veragola quotes Rashi and most poskim. This is the first opinion. That's what we just read. And he says, because the definition of the only time we say a nevela is mutter when it's completely unedible. That there's such a drasha, that once a nevela is completely unedible, it's not roy lechilas adam, then it's mutter. Right? It might be an Issa Daraban, an Akshave, whatever, but generally speaking, there's no Issa Achil of nevela if it's not edible anymore. But for ta'arovit, it says it's not even, as long as it's pogim a little bit, then it's you don't even have to come on to that, and there's no iser ta'arovit by natinas ta'am. If he says ta'am keker, that's only if it has a beneficial or neutral flavor. Okay, now let's keep reading. But once it's a ta'arovit, it's not an issue. Fine. V'yesh mi she'omer dahainu davka shenitarev iser mu'at im heter meruba. Now, this next opinion says it's only if the isser is only a little bit, right? It would be would be a smaller amount. I don't know, maybe less than 50%. But with a heter meruba, and it's more than 50% kosher food. So then we say that tarovet is okay because it's less than 50%. About Isser meruba, but if you're going to have more than 50% of Isser gets mixed in, l'toch heter mu'at, to a small amount of heter, right, it overrides it, or vafilu mechza al mechza, even if it should be exactly 50-50, ein omrim notein ta'am lifgam mutter, then we don't say ta'am lifgam is mutter. Ad sheyifkom legamrei, ad she'ein ra'ui lech mamachal adam, until it's no longer edible, right? But the first opinion says even if the majority is this chazer that you don't, and it's detrimental a little bit, and it's the majority, it's still usher to eat our case was the smoothie. Just pull it out, even if it cooked in there. Okay.
This is this opinion.
So the first opinion is even if the rove is treif, it's mutter. And that's the Ikar Halacha according to the Shulchan Aruch, clearly, and even according to the, let's say, certainly in a case of Shatat Chak, Kuli Alma. Okay, that's like the Halacha Lamaisa. Even we can even be Mekel b'Shatat Chak or Hefsid Meruba, even according to the first opinion for sure. Okay, fine. So the second opinion says it needs to be at least it has to be more than 50% kosher, right? Obviously, you don't need 60. That's the whole din of Ta'am Lifkam, otherwise it wouldn't be an issue. The im ein sham mamasho shel eser ala ta'amo bilvad, afilu eser meruba v'heter mu'at muter im pogim k'tzat. Now,
That sounds like Kolyama. Both things would say that.
Yeah, everyone say if it's only a matter of flavor and there's nothing there that's mixed in, so then it wouldn't be a problem. right? Certainly, the Shach quotes the Rashba, whatever. Just so if you have a piece of meat that falls in, according to everybody, you can take it. All you have to do is just take it out, and everything else is mutter because it's only ta'am. The difference is let's say it gets blended together, lach belach, and you can't pull it out. It's not be'en. Be'en, you can't look at it and then eat it. That we know. So let's say but if it's mixed in, it's blended, or lach belach, so then that's when that's really the nafkamina between the first two opinions. Now, v'yesh mi shechochech. Yeah, let's go on. Yeah, so what does it mean? So this is even a further machmer opinion. Perush mekave lahachmer v'oser, prefers to be machmer. Lomar she'im higdela eser midato shel heter ad shehu mashpiach yoter kesheochlo begodel midato mima shehu pogem. They have said ta'amo. So this is interesting. Sometimes you can have you increase the ingredients. You add something else in there. And now you're happy because you want to eat more. So it didn't enhance the flavor. The case over here is it diminished the flavor a little bit. You don't really care that much, but the flavor got a bit worse. But look, now you have a bigger portion. It looks nicer. You're going to eat more. You're going to be fuller. You have what to eat. So then, do we call that lishvach or lifgam? Because the flavor is lifgam, but the kamut, the metzias of what you're looking at, the volume is bigger. So which overrides? So he writes over here. So this opinion says that the size can override. If that's more important to you, then that's kovei, and that's not called ta'am lifgam. Okay, so again, that's a machmer opinion. Okay, so then again, it goes back to, that's called ta'am mishvach according to this opinion, and then you have to, okay. Fine, I think that's, fine, let's go on. Now, this is a little bit of a different topic. B'meh dvarim amurim shepogem mitchilato v'ad sofo. Okay. Well, when do we say that this halacha of ta'am nifgam is mutter, or it's not oser ta'arovet? Obviously, we can't do this lechatchila. It's always a case of b'diavad. So then we say mitchila tova ad sofo. The only time it's mutter is if it has a ta'am nifgam the entire time it's in there. Aval imishpiach ulevasof pogem. Sometimes you can add an ingredient. Don't ask me how, but these cases come up. Sometimes you can add an ingredient, and initially it gives it a better flavor. Ulevasof pogem. But then after a while, it gets worse. Yeah. Oh, pogem. Oh, pogem. Right. Maybe things get bitter over time. Okay. Fine. Oh, pogem. Right, sometimes if you mix in, you blend something, and right, it changes from raw to cooked. Okay, whatever. So, pogem ulevasof hishpiach. Or sometimes it gives off a bad flavor. But then you cook it longer, or whatever it is, time, and then it actually tastes better. You're actually benefiting from this extra thing that you did. So then, or because you added other ingredients, and then everything could be mashpia on other things and affected. So anyways, bottom line.
Take it out before it's mashpia?
So if it starts out as a good flavor, so it doesn't help that you wait an hour and it could get worse, because right now it already became asr. So obviously that's an easier one to understand. Right? If you add a good flavor that turns bad, well, for the first few minutes while it was still good, that's ta'am lishvach, and now it's already oser ta'arovet. It doesn't help you what you do later on. It became a ma'achal iser. So then it's too late. Or if you just wait over time, initially it was pagum, but you wait so that it could turn into heter, and then it could turn into a better flavor. And the halacha is, that's the halacha that it becomes aser. Okay. I think that's it on that. Okay. Now, if it started out as a bad flavor, and if you leave it in there for an hour, it's going to become a good flavor, that's not a problem yet. It's only a problem when it becomes a good flavor. The fact that you know it's going to be a good flavor, as the Shach points it out, while it's still a bad flavor, while as long as it's a bad flavor and was always a bad flavor, then it's not Oser Tarovet. The minute it becomes, what?
You better eat it quickly.
Yeah, so in that case, eat it quickly before it becomes a problem. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure you can come up with a good riddle for that situation. Okay. Hara. Now, Yesh Omrim, Afagav Ha'isr Notin Ta'am Lifgam V'Amal Mutter. So we have a case, you add a bad flavor into a pot. You're cooking it together with a pot, and so this flavor by itself is a good flavor, but it's a bad flavor for whatever's in the pot, right? But the added ingredient was a notin tam livgam to the food in the pot, but it's really essentially a good flavor still. So what happens? That flavor goes into the food. It's not osir the food, but that flavor also, the isser flavor, also goes into the walls of the pot. So what's the din for the pot? So the Rama writes, Mikol makom hakadera asura. But the kadera itself could become aser. Like that bad flavor travels through the pot and it just continues, travels through the food, continues into the pot, and now it stays there. So for the next 24 hours, all right, we're going to see this soon, for the next 24 hours, that pot is aser. It's aser to use that pot. The imbishluba, achar kach toch me'et le'et, and if you cook another dish into that pot within 24 hours, tavshil, the new tavshil, tavshil she'isar rishon notin bo ta'am l'shvach nesar tavshil hasheni. So then this flavor that went into the pot, right? It was a good flavor by itself. It was only bad for the first dish that you were cooking. But let's say it enhances the second dish that you're cooking. Now you're using the pot for a new dish. And now that flavor was bad for the other dish, but it's good for this dish. So it's 100% a good flavor. It's called ta'am lishvach now. And it can osir that second dish that you're making. Im lo haya bo shishim neged ha'isar harishon, unless it's shishim kenegdo. Now, it only has to be shishim keneged, not the whole walls of the pot, but the amount of added ingredient. Let's say you put in a cup or a spoon. That's more normal. You add a spoon of ingredients that was bad for the first pot, for the first dish, but it was good for the second dish that you're cooking. So you only have to have shishim keneged, not the walls of the pot, but shishim keneged, the isser that went in there. Okay. Next. Aval. Im naro tafshil arishon bekaf, tachvo achar kach kaf, the same kaf, the same spoon. Let's say in that same case, you now took a clean spoon and you mixed it into that dish that has that had a little bit of ta'am nifgam go into a dish, and now you're mixing it with the spoon. So that ta'am of isser, that little bit of ta'am isser, like it went into the wall, it's also going to go into the spoon. And now you take the same spoon and now you mix it into another dish on your stove. Right? A separate pot, separate dish. You take that same spoon though and you put it in there. Here it's read. Achar kach hakaf l'tavshil sheni shu gam kein pogem. So this spoon also has a little bit of this bad flavor. Lo ne'esra kedera. So, but it's not going to affect the pot. If it affects the food or not, so it depends. But if it's ta'am lifgam, it won't be. But does it affect the pot now? So then that's already too much, because it's
saying it would also the original tom in the second top show would also be pogam. That's the case.
Yeah, it could be pogam the food in the second dish if it's a good flavor for the second dish, but it's not going to have enough. It's a not basically that's going to go into the dish that now you're going to use the dish for a third thing or whatever for another case afterwards. So all the poskim say that's already too much, and it's not a problem. V'chen b'davar she'en lo ta'am klal kagon hayoreh shematichim v'hadavash alfa pi sheish raglei ha'devorim lo ne'esra hayoreh v'chol kayotze bazeh. Now, also, if it has no flavor, it's not going to affect the walls of the pot itself. And we had this case before in Pei Aleph, when you're cooking a pot with honey or anything you're cooking with, and it has some bad flavor in there, like the legs of the dvash, of the bees, it's not going to be a problem, because the legs of the bees are a ta'am lifgam for the dvash. That's the straight halacha that was clear from over there. Just to give a quick comparison, if I can get it straight, the notein tam lifgam on Pesach. So you can look back in Taf Mem Zayin of Orach Chaim. So how does this halacha of notein tam lifgam play out for Pesach? So what's the chametz? Is the chametz called? Is it a problem of notein tam lifgam? You have a little bit of chametz that mixes into your food on Pesach, and it's a ta'am lifgam. Is it a problem? The flavor of chametz is ta'am lifgam. So the Ramah is machmer based on the Rashba, because the whole heter of ta'am lifgam is based on it's considered bittul barov. That's the motive apparatus or that's making it work. And on Pesach, chametz is aser b'mashehu. But according to the Shulchan Aruch, which is based on the Ran, Tur, and the Rosh, that writes, no, ta'am lifgam is mutter, not midin batal berov, but midin, it's considered like it's a nevela that's not, it becomes a ta'arovet of ta'am lifgam, has a din of a nevela that's not edible at all. It has so that's not even, it's even like considered like it's not ma'achal adam. And therefore, it's not an issue of chametz, doesn't matter if chametz is aser b'mashu or not. This is not considered edible, and it has no bearing, and it can't be oser ta'arovet, even if it's b'mashu, because it's notein tam lifgam, and it's considered not edible. And Yoreh Shulchan says one could be mekel on chametz, like the Shulchan Aruch, for an ani or cases of hefset maruba, but otherwise the Ashkenazim are machmer.